recording. If anyone has an issue with being recorded, you won't be seen, it'll just be the speaker. Welcome everyone to You Can Thrive's free programming. It is really a pleasure to introduce music producer, student of life, student of music, writer, just overall lover of life, Cherney. He has been a producer for many years. He's sort of part of the bedrock of New York City and New York music scene in general. Going back to his New York Times review of his music being kaleidoscopic. He's worked with some greats in our music history, and he's a student and really a one of the advancing minds in the concept of therapeutic sound. And he works with the New York Open Center's Integrative Sound and Music program as a key mentor of the program and co-coordinator. He's also, I'm proud to say that he's a dear friend of mine. And You Can Thrive has been around for 15 years. We offer essentially a new paradigm, really a model for holistic wellness that's available to all, that benefits people going through breast cancer treatment. So started by Luana DeAngelis, who may join the call soon. 15 years ago, since 2005, we've been providing holistic, free, and affordable services to anyone who's been impacted by the life-threatening diagnosis of breast cancer. And since COVID, we've been really pivoting our program to an online platform. Normally we host a weekly event that includes therapeutic sound and Reiki, and we have a variety of appointments available. On this call, we also have one of our board members, she's attending, Catherine DeLong, who offers bedside thanatology, which essentially is, she brings the harp and offers compassionate care to our clients. So on this call, I already see we have some beautiful people and practitioners, including Michelle Marsuli, who's part of our integrative sound program. She plays the cello. So it's just an honor to see all of you guys here. And we're going to get started. So Chris, I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everybody for being here on this rainy afternoon. At least it's rainy in New York City. Here it's rainy up and down the East Coast. I'd like to start just by sharing the screen with my PowerPoint presentation that I've done. The science of sound. It might be subtitled "The Sound of Survival" right now, just in terms of how we're using this. Eileen, if you could make yourself a co-host again and let people in, it would be helpful. Luana asked that I speak a little bit about myself at the beginning. And so here I am. I don't know why it's not moving. Give me just a second, please. Here we go. Here I am. I've been teaching for 48 years. I was playing, and obviously before that, writing music before that. Highlights from my life really include playing with the Duke Ellington Orchestra, writing for, conducting the Duke Ellington Orchestra, helping Mercer Ellington, Duke's son, run the band for the last 8 years of his life. I was musical director, piano player for a bunch of those guys, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, the Drifters, the Shirelles. It was a lot of fun. I've been an organizer and an activist in my life, active musically in the anti-war and anti-nuclear movements. And I was happily the squeaky wheel that got the Musicians Union to find a way to ensure music teachers, which ended up being quite necessary for me because I'm a two-time cancer survivor. And without the insurance, I really would have been a mess. I'm an Alzheimer's caregiver for the last 8 years or so. And underneath all this, I'm a science and astronomy geek, which is why I'm giving this talk today. Luann asked, what does sound mean to me? Sound has always been solace for me, a way to find a safe place. Sound has always been information for me. My mom told me a story once that I was having dinner with her and I heard something outside and I said, Dad's home, because I could hear the car outside making the left-hand turn or whatever it was. And this is in Manhattan, it's not up in the country. So I think sound has always been a source of information to me, as I think it is to everybody. And I think sound is really a way to comprehend the incomprehensible and fathom the unfathomable, and just sort of sit with something that feels relatively impossible. Today, I want to just give some highlights from the science of sound, talk a little bit about 3 modalities that can be used that are based on these ideas, and then have a little time for a question and answer at the end. Sound, the use of sound is ancient wisdom and it's modern science. Since the beginning, time, sound and music have been used as a gateway to meditation, as a path of healing. This has been going on for a long, long time, and we know this to be true. Sacred sound is used in religious ceremonies everywhere, from churches, synagogues, mosques, shamans, teepees, everywhere. The original purpose of music is to calm the mind and access the divine. And I think that we know that that has implications, and one of them is that a calm mind makes a calm body, and a calm body makes a calm mind. So this gentleman, Glenn Sabin, is somebody who works with the Radical Remission Program, started by Kathleen Turner, a program that was sponsored to figure out what people who did not take normal treatment for cancer but survived nonetheless. And Glenn was told he had months to live, and 20 years later, they asked him what he thought was key to his survival. And he said, the healing of any disease starts with a calm, unfettered mind and a strong desire to live. Well, I'll start with the assumption that we all have a strong desire to live. I think that's pretty fair. Unfettered is a beautiful word. If you think about, if you look what it means, historically, it means unchained and expansive, full of possibilities and imagination. And imagination is necessary for healing, and it's what's lost in trauma. And victims of trauma no longer have the capacity to imagine a different world, which is related to this, that nobody heals when they're in fight or flight. Victims of trauma get stuck in fight or flight, and the chemistry of your body is not designed when you're in fight or flight to survive for a long time. It's designed, the chemistry, that you survive the attack of the tiger or the bill collector at the door, whatever it might happen to be. What is the connection between the mind and the body that we're talking about here? And largely, it happens through this mechanism, the mechanism of the vagus nerve. And you can see, I think I have a cursor here. There it is. I'm on the illustration on the right. The vagus nerve comes down out of the brain through the back. We'll be talking about that a little bit. And down through all of the organs over here. These are like your spleen, your liver, your kidneys, your large intestines, your sexual organs, the whole bit. And it's a two-way street between the organs and the mind and the organs. So this is, when we talk about the mind and the body being the same thing, this is the mechanism that accomplishes that. The other thing that's profound about the vagus nerve is that it's in charge of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. And she, in the next thing, is a professor at NYU, I forget, I meant to put in her name. She's talking about vagal stimulation of the vagus nerve and getting readouts on that from a machine. And she says it's more important to focus on breathing and feeling, wait, I can't see what it says right there, excuse me. Relaxed and balanced, I think it says, rather than on a number. Practices believed to improve vagal tone, slow, deep breathing, laughing, singing, humming, yoga, acupuncture, cold water on the face, or a cold water shower. If you're brave, a cold water bath. There's a gentleman who's brave with a cold water bath. He likes cold water bath. That's John Beaulieu. Something that I love that he said, once you get past the fear and the amygdala and the emotion of the hippocampus, you're right into the brainstem. He's talking about how sound is perceived in the brain. And it's very, very, very direct. It goes right into the brainstem, more direct, through a more direct mechanism than vision. Hearing is the first sense you get and the last sense that you lose. You have eyelids, but you don't have earlids. We never turn off our ears, which is, I think, a large reason that when we're asleep, our brain is still using 70 or 80% of the glucose that it uses when you're awake. So when we are so attuned to sound, here we have things that, like alarms, are always high and screeching and unpleasant, where lullabies are soft and low and beautiful. And so I think I just want to start this next section, but with the assumption that different frequencies are going to affect us in different ways. And I think that's pretty easy to assume. And why would that be? Because sound organizes matter, especially water, and we are mostly made out of water. So what you see here in this image is, again, here's my cursor, a camera. It's a fancy camera. It takes pictures. A normal camera will take a picture maybe a 20th or 100th of a second, something like that. This takes 3,000 frames a second, very high-speed camera. But what is it taking a picture of? It's taking a picture of a couple drops of water that are on a speaker, and they're being, you see the purple and red lights there. They have different lights that make different colors so that you can see the designs. And I'm going to show you the designs that are made by frequencies, not ultrasonic frequencies, frequencies that we hear in this, by this dish. Now, how come I'm not moving again? Here we go. Cymatics is comes from the Greek word for wave, and it's the exploration of being able to see how sound affects matter. So here we have these drops of water, and on the left, I'm going to stop it just for a second. You can see it's being vibrated 21 cycles per second, 21 hertz. That's just below the lowest note on the piano. And it's a different pattern than 24 cycles per second. Notice all these patterns of 2 poles or maybe 3 poles, 28 and a half, 29. This is still right down at the very bottom of the piano. But now we see more 3, and the designs are a little more complicated. And as the frequencies go up, now we're at 40, 46. The designs now are up to 4 sides. And the designs get more complicated, 50, an increasing number of sides. It's just very beautiful. And here they blink, and I don't know why, but it's very beautiful. And here we're getting higher and higher, 82, 94. This is an octave or 2 up from where we started. And just to go back, just to look at that last image for one moment, you can see that the 94 is it's much more complicated than where we began. So higher frequencies put more energy into a system, I think it's fair to say. Are there other ways to see sound? Here's a gentleman who I love, named Wolfgang, is from Harvard University. And
I'd like to...
here he is. I'm going to fast forward him a little bit because what he describes at the beginning is essentially what you just saw, okay? It's a very, very, very similar setup. If you look at it here, here's the speaker. Here's a reflector, which we did not have in the other one. So this is different. But this is a very high frequency speaker, high enough that you can't hear it. So it's what's called an ultrasonic sound. And here is a reflector that's bouncing whatever waves are coming up out of here, back and forth. So they go back and forth and back and forth. And watch what they do. They levitate little styrofoam balls, which I love that they can do this.
Chris, we are not seeing what you're seeing. We're just
okay.
Seeing
Give me a second. Sorry, I'm stuck on PowerPoint. That's why. Let me change the.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that.
Okay.
Here we go. Share screen. Desktop 1. Share. This ought to do it. Oh, yeah. Where'd it go? Here, let's try this. Do you see that?
Yes, we see that. Thanks, Chris.
I'd like to show you an example of levitating small objects with sound waves. Let me just remind you how.
This is where we were. We have the speaker, the reflecting of the sound back, and they make what's called standing waves. And the waves then have enough force to levitate little styrofoam balls. You can do the same thing with water. There's a beautiful experiment out of Clemson University that we could look at maybe another time that shows how different frequencies affect water.
As I said before,
now listen to him
the distance between the reflector and the loudspeaker is just right. If I change it, and which I'm going to do, you'll see that this standing wave disappears and the balls are no longer suspended there.
Eileen, was that intelligible?
Yeah, that was great.
That was good. Okay. Yeah. So when he changes the distance, you lose the standing wave and you lose the capacity to levitate.
We've now set up the little loudspeaker and the reflector in front of this mirror, which is part of our Schlieren optic setup. And the purpose of that is to be able to actually see where there are regions of high pressure and low pressure in the air, especially the air between the reflector and the loudspeaker. So let me turn up the volume, and before I do that, I will put on my protective hearing.
So this is a way that you can see the waves.
And if I adjust the height of the reflector, there's a point at which you see bands of white, light, and dark.
Each of the bands of white light is an area of high pressure, and that's what the balls are resting on. That's what's going on.
This is the standing wave. It only happens when the distance between the reflector and the speaker is some multiple of a half a wavelength. So every single one of those bands is a half a wavelength. If I go up a little higher, then it disappears again. But if I continue to go higher, then it will come back when I'm at another half a wavelength.
I counted them. On this one, there's 12. On the one before, there's 11. It's true.
A multiple of a half a wavelength away. Now, it's in these bands that I'm going to place the little balls. And you can see the little ball settles down where there's a bright band, and that is the high pressure area. And I know it's a high pressure because you see there's a white band right next to the reflector, which is where the highest pressure will be. If I, again, change the height, the standing wave goes away and the little balls will fall down.
Entrainment is another thing that sound and music definitely encourage, which is similar. It was originally noticed by a Dutch clockmaker in 1650 or so, with two pendulums would always synchronize with each other, and he didn't understand why. But we can expand this to other things that we don't necessarily understand why, at least immediately, like why do certain fireflies blink in unison, and how do flocks of birds or schools of fish turn as one? Why do women who live together sometimes have their menstrual cycles synchronized? We find out why, but for a long time we don't know. But not being able to perceive it doesn't mean it's not there. So there's lots of sound that we don't hear because it's out of our range of hearing. And of the electromagnetic spectrum, we perceive 1/3 of 1%, and that is our visual reality. So there's a lot out there that we don't perceive and we don't necessarily understand, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. Everything is vibration. Everything, atom or not, is in cyclical motion. Atoms, galaxies, seasons, your body. Rhythm is movement is life, is rhythm is movement is life. And here it's astounding to me, the similarity of a galaxy being formed, or I guess it's formed already. And that's a hydrogen atom. That's a photograph of a hydrogen atom, one proton, one electron. So how do we use this? I want to focus on three things. Breath. We do it all the time. It's easy to forget about. Our voice. Our voice is our most profound, our most primal, our most practical instrument. We have it with us all the time. It's free. You don't have to pay for extra baggage when you take it on a plane. God willing, we get to take a plane one day. Tuning forks are a wonderful, wonderful way to access these powers. I'm going to talk about them. But with all of this, we have to be an active participant in our own rescue. It's not enough to buy the tuning forks and then have them sitting there. It's not enough to know about the exercises and not be doing it. In my surviving cancer each time, it was a concept I worked with constantly, being an active participant in my own rescue. So first, and we're going to do, I'm just going to talk about these, then I'm going to go out of PowerPoint and into just regular Zoom mode so we can all see each other, at least you can see me. Breathe here now. Breath is profound, profound, profound in terms of being able to settle yourself and settle yourself very, very quickly. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out is been documented to be very good at relaxation. In many traditions, that's called water breathing, being equal in and be equal out. Exhale is always related to relaxation, and physiologically, the heart slows down. The inhale is the excitation, and the heart speeds up. The quality of your breathing is the quality of your life, it has been said, and I definitely agree with that. So I'm going to stop this share for a second and just want to talk about that. I want us to breathe together for a minute. We're going to do it for 3 minutes or so. I want to start with 1 minute of just everybody 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. We can see how we feel different after 1 minute, and then I want to add an element. So here we go. In, out, in, out. Soften your eyes, close your eyes. In, out, in, out, in, out, In, out. A couple more breaths just in your own time. So what I'd like to add to that is a little bit of movement. And I have to, that when we breathe in, we're going to have our arms out to the side like this. I'm sorry if my head's cut off. Our arms out to the side. We're going to be gathering energy that we feel would be useful to us, where it could be the energy of the cosmos, it could be the energy of the animals, it could be the energy of your ancestors, it could be the energy of your favorite piece of music. But we're going to, in the same, relatively the same time, it's a breath in, gathering, 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 and then down through your midline, sink. In Qigong, this is often called sinking the Qi. We're gathering the Qi from all around us, the life force, whichever life force you want to gather from, that's your choice. Bring it in, bring it down into you, through your midline. Gather, gather, and consolidate. Bring it together, bring it in. And we'll do that one more time. Open up, gather, hold, and sink into deep down inside. And just hold that for a moment. Hold that energy. But that's the energy of the breath, to be able to, I mean, certainly in hospital settings, I've used breath to calm myself down. I don't necessarily use the movement, but the breath is very, very potent on its own. I love adding that motion because I love the idea, again, being an active participant in your own rescue, of going out, gathering what you need and bringing it in. I'm going to go to the next one, please. Yeah. Toning, making friends with our bodies, getting to know you, getting to know yourself. Different sounds that we make with our voice resonate with different spots in our body, different organs. This is affected by the pitch that we make. That is how high or how low the sound is. It's also affected by the vowel that we use. As a rule, ah and o vowels and lower pitches are felt lower in the body, and is a more nasal sound that's usually felt in the front of the face, certainly in the head. With all these things, there's no right way and there's no wrong way. If you like singing softly, please sing softly. If you like singing more loudly, please let go. Don't hold back. If you don't feel like singing, humming is beautiful. And we're going to start with humming, actually. Each of our bodies is different. The same pitch is going to affect two different people in two different ways because they're two different sizes, and pitches have wavelengths. And just like the standing waves that we saw before, a certain wavelength will be very powerful in a container, a contained area, whereas a frequency that's very, very similar but not the same won't be. The idea often also behind this is that in traditional Chinese medicine, you're asked to develop a relationship with your different organs so that you can send energy to them and help them. And oftentimes in meditation, we send sound, we send light. But here we're going to send sound. Let me go back to Zoom so you can see me. Can you see me now? I think so.
Yes.
Thank you. So just let's work with that idea. Let's each of us take a sound that feels low for us I want to work with the traditional Om is not one sound. It's three sounds. It's ah, and it's oh, and it's So everybody just take it for yourself, please. Take your hands, put them on your lower abdomen, and find an ah sound and see if you can feel a low ah that vibrates low in your abdomen. I'm going to give all of us about 30 seconds or so to work with that, and we'll see what's up. I'll mute myself so you don't have to listen to me. Make sure it's an ah sound. It's easy to drift to oo, but oo is the next sound. Or oh, I'm sorry, is the next sound. It's easy to drift. Make sure it's ah. Oh. And you can feel that quite low in your torso. Oh, let's try oh on a slightly higher pitch and see if you can feel that more towards your solar plexus. Let's see where that goes. It can be useful to slide. Oh, because little differences in the pitch will make different cavities in your body resonate because of how the wavelength fits with the dimensions of your body. One more time, please, on O. And then is much more in the face. And you can feel that just with the But just because you're humming doesn't mean your jaw needs to be tense. Please keep your jaw relaxed. You don't have to clench your teeth or go anywhere near that. Just a Let's do two more like that. So I think you can just sense that different tones, different pitches, different vowels move differently in the body. And the last modality to talk about is tuning forks. And I just wanted to, Luana asked me to show you guys some tuning forks. That's John Beaulieu's thing. I'll go back to the PowerPoint in a minute, but these are the normal tuning forks, like a piano tuner, somebody might use, as opposed to what's called an osteopathic tuning fork, which is a tuning fork that has weights on the prongs of the fork. And John suggests always putting a crystal foot on the bottom. The crystal is a way to sort of focus the energy, like light is focused in a laser. When it's all aligned, the crystal focuses the sound a little bit more. And they're beautiful because you can just listen to them like these kind. You tap on your knee. I don't know how well you hear that. I hope you hear that. That's a perfect fifth. That's a very, very profound sound. It's the sound of the first overtone after the octave. You have a fundamental, you have the double of that is the octave of the fundamental, and then the ratio of 2 to 3 becomes the fifth. And with an osteopathic tuning fork, you put it on the body. And this is similar in a sense to the acupuncture that the professor was talking about in that quote earlier before, because this, just like with the acupuncture, you have to be profoundly accurate with where you're putting the needles. But with a foot like this one is turquoise, the vibration is transmitted to the area. So if if the acupuncture point is here and you're a quarter of an inch away, it doesn't matter at all. It's a very nice way to give yourself stimulation. I used it last year in chemo on my fingertips. It worked really nicely to stimulate them because that's the acupuncture point for neuropathy. Tuning forks. So this is what I was just saying. 1 to 2 to 3. Here, if you start with a conch shell and you blow into it softly, you get a low tone, a little harder an octave. Harder still, more energy into the system. The next overtone, just like the water drops before, when you put more energy into it and you got more activity. It's a very, very parallel idea. The modern science of this is that it's been demonstrated that listening to the perfect fifth, that sound I was just playing with the 2 tuning forks, spikes the production of nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide does everything good for you. Anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antibacterial, vasodilating, it lowers your blood pressure. It's given to premature babies in hospitals, and it's known to turn them from blue to pink, from not enough oxygen to enough oxygen. Nitric oxide is...
Did you want to share the screen?
COVID. You don't see this? No, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You saw this. I thought you saw this. My bad, as the kids say. Hold on a second. Why is it not sharing? I don't know why it's not sharing. What do you see, Eileen? Oh, wait. Now do you see me? No, oh, okay, now we're good, I think.
We just see you.
Yeah, hold on. Here's the PowerPoint. Here you go.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
Oh, there we go. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Nitric oxide is an anti-inflammatory. It does everything good for you. It treats premature babies. It's being considered as a treatment for COVID right now. And as I was saying, osteopathic tuning forks can be used in similar ways to acupuncture. There is the man himself, John Beaulieu, with his C&G tuning fork, the same two that I was just doing. That's his website. If you want any of his products, You Can Thrive is a licensed distributor of all of his stuff. John is a really, really brilliant man and a pleasure to be around. As I said, for me, none of this is hypothetical. 15 years ago, it was stage 4 colon cancer. Last year, it was stage 2 pancreatic cancer. My first doctor was very careful to say to me that odds, all these statistics are just averages. And you're not average, you're unique. Each of us, every person, every being is unique and beautiful. So an average is just an average. Never tell me the odds. God bless this woman. This is what chemo looked like for me. This is Sarah Galassini. She would come last year, gave me sound treatments through all my chemo. Each time I had chemo, she was there. And I'd like to close with just 2 minutes of what that was like. And Eileen, let me know if you can't hear this, but I think you're going to be able to. So
We got it.
this is me in the hospital. You can see that's the little, schmatas, the sheets they have hanging over the sliding glass doors. The nurse's station is right outside. And there I go. Yeah. You can hear my breathing just go. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the invitation. You Can Thrive, Eileen, Luana. Just to say, Sarah and I now have formed, we work together. We call ourselves Sonic Shanti. And anybody who would like the video, we put it on our YouTube channel. For some reason, it hasn't populated yet, but if you leave your emails with Eileen, we would love to send it out to anybody who might want to hear it. It's really quite beautiful. It lasts about a half an hour. So I open the floor to questions. If people have questions, if people have thoughts, people have feedback, I would be curious for any of this.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was excellent. And he has so much to share. So really, we open the floor. If you have a question, just unmute yourself.
I have one question about, and I'm not sure if this is the proper forum, but I noticed when using bowls and buying bowls that they come in different octaves, which I feel like was also sort of, you saw that in the demonstration of the sound waves.
Yep.
And is there any information on, are some octaves better than others? Is it just what we cotton to, what we find ourselves drawn to? Is it important to, do we know if there's any, like I heard a mom mention who's also a sound healer that her son has ADHD and she can help him by doing the same note on two different bowls that are two different octaves. So I just was wondering if there's any information regarding how we decide or what this means for us as practitioners?
To me, the most important thing is the ratio. And again, this comes a lot from John. John would talk about being in India, and there's a group of people sitting around getting ready to chant, and they'll spend half an hour just going until they all agree on what their baseline, their starting note is, and then from there they make octaves, they make fifths. To me, my opinion is that what's important is the ratio. Like you said, you know, the woman, your friend, was playing the same note in 2 octaves on the bowls, and so that makes me think that what was working was the octave, because the octave is also is the first most primordial sound in the overtone series, even more primordial than the fifth. But to me, in my experience, there's no magic frequency. Now, that said, I have a friend who does work with the squirrels in her backyard up in Connecticut, and she has one crystal bowl that they love, and she'll play that, and all the squirrels will come over. Or this one squirrel she's been making friends with comes over. She plays a different frequency. The squirrel doesn't like it. So I don't know if that's the same for all squirrels. Maybe that's what it is for this squirrel. I think it has also something to do with what I was talking about with resonance, where it has to do, like with the scientist at Harvard moving the plate up and down. If it's the right distance, it'll resonate. And if let me rephrase that. If the distance is correct for that person or that person's rib cage or that, you know, that person's body, whatever part of the body they're sending the sound to, or the sound is interacting with, it will be very strong. Whereas, so it's I don't have a clear answer for it. It's a big question with a lot of people. But my opinion is that it has more to do with the ratio. In my experience, it has more to do with the ratio than the.
I appreciate that, because I feel like that is one thing that's sort of, I know that I like certain octaves. Maybe also because when you're a singer, you're like either a soprano or a mezzo soprano or whatever it is. But just something that's really like puzzled me. So I appreciate your insight.
Which octaves do you like? What range singer are you?
I'm a mezzo soprano. So I guess, and I tend to go lower, and I do not like higher octaves personally. So when I'm buying bowls, I tend to buy bowls that have lower ranges. But then I'm like, this is not about me. Like, this is about, bringing, what you're saying, what can we offer, especially during these times. And so I just was curious what other that's one thing I really struggle with when purchasing of very expensive tools, so it's just good to get feedback. Sometimes you feel like you're in a vacuum when you're doing this. So
my opinion is that if you connect with them, you'll be able to use them well.
Yeah, that was just my intuitive feeling as well, but I appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Sally, I'd like to also step in and say that there are certain notes also that resonate with different people. And I can just say for myself, when I'm offering a session, I know a few of you who are practitioners probably have something to say about this as well, and including Chris. I'll tend to actually introduce them. Let's say I'm doing the Himalayan bowls. I'll introduce them to each note and ask them which one they resonate with the most. And I don't know what it is, but my name is Eileen. So my vowel that I hear all the time, they say that your name is the most common, the most frequent word that you hear in the course of your life. So E is something that I really resonate with. And it turns out that I really resonate with my E tuning fork and my E bowl.
That is so cool. I love that.
but everyone's an individual, right? And so when I give a session, I'll invite them to just close their eyes so they don't have any association with a number or a letter or a note. And then I let them choose, oh, okay, yeah, that A bowl. And then that's the bowl that will maybe go on their heart or go in between their feet.
Okay. I love that. Thank you for that, that inclusion of your thoughts, because I appreciate that, because I know, like what you're saying, you hear the E or you like something, but I like the idea of just introducing it with the eyes closed. That's great.
Any other questions? Thoughts, observations, curiosity?
Chris and Eileen, hi. Wearing my my tropical mask that my mother made me. I'm wondering if you guys have thoughts on how we sort of migrate to the like online, more ethereal realm during this time, and sort of do it in a way that that like allows for the integrity of the sound to come through as well.
That's the $64,000 question, right? It's what everybody, I mean, I've spent the last 2-3 weeks thinking about this and talking to people I know about this. Yeah. The thing that is clear that's not possible is for people to do things that require strict synchronization, like playing on a beat together, is just, in terms of physics, not going to happen right now. There's no technology that is fast enough to allow for that. Sometimes I've been working with Sarah a lot on just going and things, and how does that sound to you? And there's so many variables. There's the variable of there's very little that you control in that chain. So all you can control is how good the quality of sound is that you're putting in.
Right.
Which is why I'm using a microphone today instead of just the thing in the computer. But I'm trying to figure out how to get the microphone through the digital audio workstation so that it can have more presence and so that it can really pick up the instruments. Because the other thing that happens is that these systems are designed that when one person starts, it's the other person stops. And playing together is not like that at all. It's when one person, you want to be able to play it together, and I haven't discovered that yet. Now, all that said, a lot can still come through. Like Sylvia Nakache gave a beautiful little performance as part of Luana's, as part of a ceremony the other night. And it was very authentic. It was very beautiful. The fidelity had some problems. But even with the big concert on TV last week, I mean, a lot of these people, Paul McCartney's sound was terrible, And then if you tuned in for the pregame of that, it was really, really weird because there was all these people who don't really have big contracts or big anything like that, and they were just playing from their kitchens, and it was sometimes the sound was good and sometimes it was really bad. But what you have, I guess the main thing to say is what you have control over is how good of a sound you're inputting. My biggest piece of advice is to use an Ethernet cable because it makes all the difference in the world to have that stability of connection. But the intent can come through. I mean, look, sound amplifies intent. And even when the sound is compromised, the intent is not necessarily compromised.
Chris?
Yes, please.
I get a better product when I'm playing my harp on Zoom if I turn on the original sound.
Yep. Yeah, you turn on original sound, then you go into advanced, and there's 2 noise suppression things that you turn off. It
Yeah.
helps. It helps, but the problems come in a lot when, in terms of just the transmission of it. I'm trying to find another platform that's more friendly. Like YouTube is designed for movies, and so the sound level on YouTube can be very high. And so but I've never had good luck with YouTube Live, which is, I think, their platform for something like this, where it can be interactive and you can see their faces.
Mm.
You know, I'll keep you guys appraised. I mean, you know, it's really, everybody's trying to figure this out right now, how to get good quality sound through a wire. Thoughts, questions, inquiries? Had people seen sound levitate things before? Is that new for anybody? It always blows my mind. I always enjoy that.
That was great.
Good.
That was great watching that.
I think it's really fun.
Thank you also for all the articles you always send us, because some of this information you also send it through your articles. It's so interesting, sometimes difficult, but also nice to see this whole field, all these people that work on this. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but with cymatics, the study of how sound looks and these things, there are a group of scientists who are developing a lexicon of dolphin language, because we can't hear the dolphins, but their sonar, their high frequencies make cymatic patterns. And so they can identify, I guess they measure the frequency, have the diagram of the cymatic pattern that the frequency makes, and then somehow correlate it with the dolphin behavior. But it's a way to see what you can't see. And I always come back to that this is all about, you know, we think we see everything, we think we know everything, and we just don't. You know, we don't perceive all sound, and we don't perceive all electromagnetic radiation. All we perceive is what we hear and light. And there's gobs of other stuff floating around out there, you know.
Where do you find all these interesting scientific articles? Different places?
Different places. I just, you know, I have, you know, when you sign on to different news services, they say, well, what are you interested in? And so I put in, you know, neuroscience and this and that and the other thing, you know, so.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Well, you're very welcome. If anybody else is interested in getting those kind of things, just leave your email and I'd be happy to do that.
I just had a question for tomorrow. Eileen, I think what we need to read in the email you gave us in an attachment, what we have to read for next Tuesday, Alan Turry, but for Thomas Emilio, I don't know if we have that in an attachment.
Okay, you know what, could we talk about this offline?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
looks like there was one more question from Lady iPhone 6.
okay, what's the question?
Curious if anyone has experience with a good resonant frequency and tuning forks for breast cancer. I could speak to that. There is a tuning fork. It's a weighted tuning fork, sort of like what Chris was referring to as the osteopathic tuning fork, that is particularly good for, you know, we're not going to say, we can't make any claims about breast cancer, right? But what we can say is that it helps stimulate the lymphatic system. So if you can take, I don't have one here, but the weighted tuning fork is, you know, the normal one that's between C and G is the Auto 128C. but there's another one, I believe it's 32. And it's 32 because it's 128 cycles per second. That's how it vibrates. But the 32 is it's a lower, more resonant vibration, right? And so it's vibrating not as fast. But it's particularly good for the lymphatic system. So what I will do, just as an example of how we'd use it, we activate it on, hockey puck, an apple, or your knee maybe, and you just gently give yourself a lymphatic sort of massage, but it's like an effleurage. It's a very light massage where you're not even barely touching, gracing the hairs on your skin, and that's stimulating the lymphatic flow. And if you can look into lymphatic massage, particularly for breast cancer and breast health in particular. There's a lot of information on physical therapy websites. If you want to contact You Can Thrive, you can email me at eileen@youcanthrive.org, and I can try to send you a protocol for lymphatic massage. But the whole idea is that we're just doing it really light, and that particular tuning fork is what's meant for that.
Thank you.
32.
I think it's important to clarify that you weren't touching yourself with that. You had it off of an inch or so away from your skin.
Yeah, so you're gonna, it's almost like what they call it, like an etheric massage, where you're not even touching your skin. You're literally just gracing the hairs on the inside of your arm. You're also gonna do the lymph, particularly related to the breasts, or in your neck and your chest and essentially your arms. And there's a very particular direction that you're going to do that in.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen.
Cool. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here and listening, and for providing the community, which is so, so important.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And You Can Thrive. We're just this is a beautiful opportunity to host you, Chris. And this is our first time hosting Chris. And we have a few other. What? Not the last, exactly. And we have some exciting more workshops coming up in the future. Hopefully, one with Catherine DeLong. We have definitely EFT group tapping happening next Wednesday and Saturday. And each week we do therapeutic sound with distance Reiki. We have Ilana Bell coming up soon, and we have other and we also have our 15-year anniversary, which is this month coming up. So we're actually going to be starting a fundraiser called In Honor Of, and that is anyone can become a fundraiser under You Can Thrive, and an ambassador essentially. And the idea is you're going to do a campaign in honor of someone who in your life is currently impacted by breast cancer, or may have been impacted in the past. So for example, I'm going to do one with my family in honor of my mother, who passed away from breast cancer when I was 24 years old. And so this campaign we're really excited about. Well, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, just go to our website, youcanthrive.org, and add your name, and we'll send you information on free programs that we have going on. And of course, if you know of anyone that has been impacted by breast cancer or currently is, we don't discriminate. We see everyone, and we give everyone access to our 3-month free membership, which includes 4 private treatments, unlimited nutritional counseling bi-weekly, and then access to all of our programs for free. And that is no matter what stage you are in. So we see people who are 15 years out to people who've been diagnosed 15 days ago, because we see it as really, truly preventative medicine and a holistic, integrative approach to really staying well no matter where you are and who you are. So thank you so very much. And If you have any questions whatsoever, just put it in the chat. We recorded this, so we can try to send out the recording. Chris may have some slides available, maybe some articles available that we'll send out. Chris's email, if you want to email him directly, may I give it?
Please, go ahead.
It's chris@chrischerneymusic.com, right?
No, CHERNEY, chrischerneymusic.com.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you guys so very much. I'm just gonna just take one last minute to open it up if there's any last questions or comments. And maybe what we can do is we can all mute and we can close with a silent Om, just knowing that we're all coming together with that primordial sound.
Here we go.
Thank you, everyone. Blessings. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you, Chris, so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you so much for listening. It was my maiden voyage. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. Be well, all of you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You bet. Thank you.